UCLA is a university with unlimited possibilities for students that desire world-class academics and research, unmatched diversity, incredible cultural and social opportunities, successful alumni and career networking, first-class campus facilities, plus America's top intercollegiate sports teams. Located in Westwood, just a few miles from the Pacific Ocean, UCLA's 1 square mile campus is surrounded by famous cities such as Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, and Santa Monica.
Hi everybody, and welcome to UCLA Bruin Talk. I'm Dave Marcus, pleased to introduce you to our new co-pilot, Naomi Manea. We have a great show for you. Sleepy times on campus, but not for the athletic department. In a moment, we're going to meet a new face, but a familiar face on campus, and then we'll talk about the world's most popular sport.
Before we introduce our first guest, let's take a look at this week's upcoming events.
And welcome back to UCLA Bruin Talk. The new head volleyball coach is a familiar face on campus. He's been here a long time. A great setter for the men's team. He was a 3-time All-American. And then he went on to coaching, both as an assistant for the men's and women's team, and for the last 4 years out on the sands of Waikiki. The Hawaii coach has come to UCLA to become the head man at the Bruins position. Mike Seeley, welcome to UCLA Bruin Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And it's got to be great to be back wearing blue and gold.
Yeah, you know, it was a big surprise, happened really quickly. Pretty overwhelming at first, and I think my staff and I are pretty focused on the task at hand now.
You're replacing Andy Banikowski, who only held the job here for 43 years. Are you concerned about coming to a program with such rapid turnover?
You know, the 3 coaches I've worked for, Dave Shoji, Andy Banikowski, Al Skates, have all been working for 35, 36 years plus, so it's never been an intimidating situation.
What are some of the things, the great things you think you've learned from those legendary coaches that you'll carry forward into your head coaching career?
You know, you learn bits and pieces from every coach you work with, whether they're, you know, top of the game like those 3 are, even, you know, coaches I've worked with in Europe, or coaches, I've learned some great things from junior high coaches. You know, it's just being open to keeping your ego out of it, being ready to learn every chance you get.
How have you communicated your expectations to the team, and how have they communicated theirs to you?
Don't have expectations. You know, I think you get too many expectations, you get a lot of disappointments. I think the only focus, and probably when I was a player, we talked about winning a ton at UCLA. The 1 year we did win was the year we didn't talk about it. I think your only focus can be as good as you can be that year, and you can't really focus at the product. You know, it's the progress, it's the mission, and working as hard as you can, but I don't think you can focus on that end result.
You've had a chance to work with your players during the spring. Now a little time off, you go back for real camp in August, and your season starts pretty soon after that. How would you assess the progress that you were able to make with the team in that spring period?
You know, we made some biomechanical changes, and we had some things that we wanted them to work on and be open to learning and changing, trying to teach them to be, you know, efficient and athletic. I think in women's volleyball, they were so focused on technique for so long. And technique's important as long as it's maximizing their athleticism. So I think we're set to start in August.
So you're talking about efficiency. What do you think needs to be done for this year's team to be taken to the next level?
You know, I think we can be very successful this year. There's a lot of pressure on us. I don't think we're overly physical compared to some other teams around the country, so we're going to have to be pretty perfect as far as our efficiency siding out and block defense. So it's going to put more pressure on us to stay within our system longer.
UCLA has such a tradition of great setters. You being a prime example, but Nellie Spicer, we've had some wonderful setters come through the program. If you're not the overwhelming physical team, it's got to all run through that position.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the setting, you want someone that can run your system. You need a leader out there. You need a lot of things. We were fortunate to get a transfer because both setters transferred from last year, leaving UCLA. So it left a big gaping hole, and we got Lauren Van Orden, who's going to step in, along with 2 incoming true freshmen that can compete for the starting spot.
You play in such a tough conference. The Pac-10, always Washington, USC, Cal, Stanford, UCLA, right up there. You know, Arizona can pop up and be very, very strong. Does playing against that kind of competition on a consistent basis, what does that do for the performance of the team as you head toward postseason?
It definitely sets the bar high as far as you know what you have to compete at. But the downside is possibly, I know the complaint last year was the Pac-10 was so strong, they kind of beat each other up all year. By the time tournament rolled around, teams were a little bit subpar. So you got to survive the Pac-10. You know what level you got to play at. And you got to be ready to go into the NCAA tournament from there.
The fall season's approaching quickly. How do you keep your girls motivated through the summer when all their friends are just having fun?
I'm sure my girls are out having fun. I'm a firm believer in balance. I think kids and our culture in general is so over the top as far as focusing on that sport 24/7. And I think to be really passionate about it, you got to take a step away from it. So I think physically they're conditioning now, making sure when they step back in the gym, they're ready to go. But by no means do I expect them to be focused on volley right now.
The first time I met Andy Banikowski was actually on the beach in Hawaii. He was over there with the team for a preseason tournament, and they were out there enjoying the surf and enjoying the waves and really trying to find that balance. It's always been important at UCLA, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure. When was that you met
Oh,
him?
it was a while ago.
'Cause I would say he's implemented the 1-hour rule in Hawaii as far as trying to keep the girls out of the sun, not getting too worn down. That's the hard part going to Hawaii. Is yes, you want the balance, but it's a pretty big tournament. It's the first one of the year. You want to perform well, so it's making sure they're not overly balanced.
You coached against UCLA when you were there. Now you're going to be coaching against not only a team you were coaching, but a team where you recruited a lot of the players.
Right.
How awkward is that going to be?
It's the industry we work in. For me, it's my loyalties are to whatever team I'm with, and it's you want to help the kids and you want to help them progress as people and players. And you're wearing a different shirt. They're wearing another colored shirt now. I love all those kids in Hawaii and UCLA, and it'll be interesting.
We talked about the Pac-10 schools, but you watch the teams, Nebraska, Texas, they're gigantic. How does a system-oriented team operate against a physically overwhelming team like that?
Well, it definitely keeps the pressure on the smaller system team, and we won't always be a smaller system team just for right now, and the personnel we have is what we're going to have to do. Those teams, recruiting's all regionalization now. Kids are committing when they're 15 and 16 years old. So Texas and Nebraska, they're basically recruiting their region, and by the time we even notice who the kids are, they've been heavily recruited for 2 years, and it's hard to get them to change paths and come out west.
Most of the players on the team this year are returning players. How does that experience help the team, and how are you looking forward to using that experience this year?
Any playing experience is going to be great, and they've played together. The pros, yes, they have experience together. The con is, when we do need to make a change, they're so comfortable in whatever they've been doing together as a team. So just keeping their minds open, realizing there's some things that we are going to do differently.
How do you think, Mike, your experience as a student athlete here at UCLA is going to assist your coaching here at UCLA?
I have no idea, because school looks entirely different now than it used to. The facilities are much nicer, everything's great, and it was so long ago, I have no idea.
Well, you have one more year in Pauley Pavilion before the big renovation, and I'm sure that it's going to be nice to at least be in familiar surroundings when you start your head coaching career here.
Oh, for sure. And we have no problem playing in the Wooden Center when Pauley's down. When I was an undergrad here, that was their main gym, played all their matches there. It's a nice facility, seats almost 2,000. It's a very intimate facility.
Well, volleyball draws well at UCLA. You get good crowds out for the women's games at Pauley, but when you go over to the Wooden Center a year from now, it's going to be sellout every night.
Let's hope.
And the noise level in there is really high. How does that affect the performance of the team on the floor when you've got that crowd behind you?
If we're doing our job as a staff, then it doesn't matter. Whether you're playing in front of 10,000 in Hawaii or 6,000 in Nebraska, it's all volley. Once the ref blows the whistle, you're just ready to go.
You mentioned your incoming freshmen. What special skills will they be bringing to the team this year?
Well, I mean, there's 9 new bodies coming in. There's a transfer setter who's projected to be, fighting for a starting spot. I've got a 6'3" girl from Brazil who's coming into school. The other one's just gonna have to fight, and I don't have premonition on exactly where they're gonna fit in, but they just got to be ready to battle, and the best ones are gonna play.
There has to be a moment when you assume the head coaching role, where all of a sudden you're not looking for somebody else to start the conversation. Did you have a moment where it dawned on you, hey, wait a second, this is my gig now?
Yeah, there's certain things that I need to learn to get better at and really understand the job, and my athletic director was very good in telling me, hey, to really get the grasp on a job like this, it's going to take 5 or 6 years. So at least the pressure's off for the time being. But just learning. I got a ton of mentors and friends in the department that have been head coaches for a long time that I can always bounce questions off of.
Game management, I mean, we talk about head coaches, and of course you structure the practices and decide personnel, but game management is a whole different thing. What are some things that you'll be doing now, roles you haven't had to assume in the past?
I've always kind of been able to have that role, though. I think I've always had a voice on all the benches I was on. It wasn't a function of, sit down, shut up, and learn. I think they valued my opinion. I think I was able to give my opinion. So it doesn't feel, in the gym, it does not feel like a new role. I've been designing practices and putting things in place for a long time.
Mike, you were here at a wonderful celebration recently for Andy Banikowski. At 43 years is an astonishing record. What words would you like to send out to Coach Banikowski about the great career he had at UCLA?
Besides the ones I've already given him over and over. No, it's just amazing. The longer that I get into coaching, it's amazing. The longevity is so much more difficult than you think. And every season is taxing, and there's ups and downs, and to be successful for that long is pretty inspiring.
Coaches have to teach their players not to let the ups get too up or the downs get too down. How do you apply that same advice to yourself?
The way you just said it. There's going to be peaks and valleys, and you just got to know when you're in a valley that it's not going to last forever. Just wait for it to come up.
How do you like the transition? You were a student athlete here, and now you're the head coach. What are the differences? Obviously, there are a lot, but how do you like being the head coach in that spot?
Love the head coach. I think there was more pressure on me as an assistant in Hawaii than as a head coach here. I think as an assistant, you're always kind of waiting to get your break. What's going to happen? Am I ever going to get a chance? As far as the undergrad to coaching, it's been so long ago, and I played 8 years in Europe and overseas and coached in different places, so there's enough stuff in between my undergrad experience and head coaching, so I can't really relate the two.
Well, you've been all over the globe. We were talking earlier before we went on the air about a Champions League match you played in Romania and coaching in Hawaii. It's really taken you far and wide, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure. I've been around, and it's the funny thing now is I'm so bad on vacations because I've never paid to travel. It's so funny. I try to book a vacation, realize that I have to pay for the airfare and a hotel. It's bizarre.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best, and it's great to have you back on campus. Mike Seeley and the UCLA women's volleyball team will be out in action coming up the very start of the fall schedule. We'll look forward to seeing you out there. Mike, thanks for joining us on Bruin Talk.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with our next guest on UCLA Bruin Talk right after this brief public service announcement.
A trophy can be made just about anywhere. But there's one place where champions are made. UCLA, champions meet here.
Welcome back to Bruin Talk. Let's take a look at this week's Athlete of the Week. This week, we honor the UCLA softball team as our Student Athlete of the Week. The team recently brought home UCLA's 106th national championship by defeating the Arizona Wildcats. The Bruins started off the season as the number 5 seed and finished with an overall record of 50-11. Throughout the series, the team hit at least 2 home runs in every game, and several athletes posted record stats for RBIs, home runs, and grand slams. In the final game, the Bruins posted 19 hits and 15 runs, the most ever recorded in a World Championship game. The team powered through in the 5th inning, sending 12 batters to the plate and scoring 7 times. A single and a double in the 6th inning widened the gap until the Bruin bullpen could pitch a final strikeout to seal the win. The title is the 11th for the program. Congratulations to the UCLA softball team, and good luck next season. If you would like additional information about UCLA athletics, please visit our website at www.uclabruins.com.
Well, we told you at the top of the show we were going to talk about the world's most popular sport, and that sport is football. It's the round ball football kind. The World Cup has brought a great prominence to the summertime viewing of the spectators, and UCLA's women's soccer team is going to be out there very, very soon. They're one of the first sports to start. Amelia, Mathis, you got to be getting itchy ready to play this year.
Yes, it's so excited.
You're a junior defender. We've seen a lot of good defenses in the World Cup. How have you assessed watching the tournament?
Well, I've definitely watched every second of every game. I look at the defense as if I'm a communicator. And so being a defender, you have to communicate not only with your goalie, but also the line in front of you. And so I try to look at their communication, and I mean, that's how the goals are not being scored, and sometimes the lack of communication is when they're getting scored on. So kind of look at that, because that's a big part of the game.
The field, or the pitch, is so huge. How do you effectively communicate?
Well, it's kind of like I say, I'm going to tell you something, and you tell the next person something. So it's kind of like I'm an outside back. So I let the outside mid, I am the director of the outside mid. So I tell the outside mid something, the outside mid will then tell the outside forward, depending on our formation. So it's kind of like we tell in lines, we direct in lines.
We talked about the fact that you're out there playing games before all the students come back to campus by like 6 weeks. You really start early, you start in August usually.
Right.
Anticipation this time of year?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those times where I'm just like, gonna get out there, I kind of feel like soccer's a year-round sport, we're all playing with the summer team and whatnot, but just being back, being a Bruin, being back on the field, we're just anticipating that moment.
So your season starts early. How do you manage staying focused through the summer?
Well, it's just one step at a time is what we try, as our team is here all this summer, so we're trying to just one step at a time and just kind of relax, and the game is going to approach soon, but we can't anticipate thinking far ahead. We just need to one step at a time.
A year ago, the Bruins had the #1 goals against in the entire country on their way to a 21-3-1 record. Incredible. How much of that comes from Jill Ellis's philosophy?
Jill's awesome. I think that she gives us the instructions and we take it in, and we just play. And I think that's kind of what this whole program's been. She gives us the directions, and as a team, we have a goal, and we just take it in and just pursue that.
UCLA is very used to seeing their name as one of the 4 on the field at the College Cup, and it's always played in cold weather. How difficult is that to go from California to playing in the cold?
Well, see, that's one thing we're trying to get changed, is maybe the Final Four being in California, but along those lines, I mean, the game, it doesn't predict the weather, so we're just out there, and if it's hot, it's hot. If it's cold, it's cold, but we're not going to let that interfere with what we want to do.
So you said communication was important on the team. Does your team have any traditions that you do to stay close to one another, to be like sisters?
I definitely have to say that, I mean, we hang out a lot outside of soccer, but I think that we just kind of click. Like when we come in, we don't really try to do certain classes like freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. It's kind of all together as a family. So the game doesn't know your age. So together we're all pretty much the same age. And that's kind of how I think we're so close.
Amelia, when you started playing soccer, I don't know how old you were, probably very young. Everybody dreams of being the striker, of being the goal scorer. How did you find your niche as a defender?
Well, actually, when I was younger, I actually was the striker. So it was just something that kind of clicked with me. I like to view the whole field, and being up front, I couldn't really do that. So then I was actually the center back, which I can actually see different, the middle, the sides, and all kinds of stuff. And I just fell in love with playing a defense. And then I also was able to get up and back. The field is really long, so fitness had to be great, and that's just something that I could do.
Describe the satisfaction you get with a clean sheet, a shutout at the end of the game.
It's awesome because it's just like you're playing 90 minutes. That's a long time. And I know soccer, sometimes they're like, oh, it's boring, you know, people don't score, but not letting them score is like the best feeling ever as a defender.
One of the secrets, I think, to UCLA's runs to the College Cup is that your regular season record is always so good. You get to host the tournament games here at Drake Stadium.
Right.
Tell us about the advantage of playing on this particular pitch.
Well, it's always that whole thing about like family. Here at UCLA, I've kind of learned that, you know, you have this family branch that you can kind of lean on. So when you have that home field advantage, you know that your family is going to be out there watching you, and that just gives you another kick and motivation to just kind of win those games for your family. So I think that's kind of how we look at that.
You mentioned that soccer takes a lot of physical fitness, and it does. I couldn't imagine running up and down that field all day. What do you guys do to prepare for that?
Well, as I said before, we have the summer as kind of like our workout time. Our whole team decided this year that we were going to stay all together. So we're actually here working out every morning except for Wednesdays, doing different sorts of things, running 120s, which is the whole field and back, certain cuts, just certain things that we know that could help us throughout the game, just to make our fitness kind of stay where it is.
The Pac-10 is so strong, and the California schools in particular. Stanford to the championship match last year. SC won it a couple of years ago. UCLA is always in the College Cup. Cal's been very good. As you look forward to the season, do you focus on those Pac-10 battles?
I think that's pretty much where the championship is won. I think that we can only take it one game at a time, but I think that the Pac-10 definitely gears us up for that next step. We really can't look forward. The games we have to look for is the Pac-10. As you said, Stanford. Stanford's been one of the top teams that we've had to look out for the past years now. And so I feel like the recruiting process is only getting stronger. And since, you know, we're making it to the Final Four and Stanford's making it to the Final Four, it's like a competition. And so we just have to look at those games as just one step at a time.
So last season was a great season. What qualities does the team have that you can look forward to have another great season this year?
You know, I think that it's always that making it to the Final Four just isn't enough. And I think that that is still a goal that we have. I think it's been 7 years that we've made it to the Final Four, and it's just we haven't yet got over that hump. And I think that every time we take something new back that we need to learn. And I know you're like 7 times, that's a long time. It's a lot of times, like your chances may be up, but I think and I believe that this year is definitely our year.
When did you know that soccer was going to be the sport for you?
Probably my junior year in high school. I actually played basketball, and so that was kind of my main goal, kind of growing up in high school. And I was like, hey, you know, maybe I'll play basketball, and thought I'd grow, but that obviously didn't happen. And I still had the love of playing soccer, and so Jill came to one of my practices and did a mini camp with my club team, and I just fell in love with her. She's an awesome coach.
We're going to play multiple choice. Left foot or right foot?
Right.
Soccer or football?
Soccer.
Why do we call it soccer?
I don't know. It's just one of those things. We actually had the camp this past week, and one of the girls kept calling it football, and it was actually kind of cool how she kept calling it football. So that was kind of cool too.
Now the World Cup has taken much of the stage, but the Women's World Cup is coming up in a year, and the U.S. of course had great success in '99 with Brandi Chastain's goal against China, and then 2003 not so much success here. But internationally, how do you see the rise of women's soccer? Is it getting more popular internationally?
I think that for women's sports, period, I think it's one of those things where it's kind of iffy sometimes, but I definitely think that soccer is definitely bringing the women's sports back. I feel like it's bringing young women to a part where they're like, oh, I want to be like her, I want to be like her, and not just of, you know, the Mia Hamms of the United States, but also in, you know, Brazil and, you know, different places like that. So.
Who were your women's soccer idols as you were growing up?
Definitely Mia Hamm, Brandi Chastain. Those were my definitely big two.
Well, that '99 team was really exceptional, and that's, I guess, when you were in AYSO.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you first started playing, was there a point you realized, hey, wait, I'm really better than a lot of the other players?
Yeah, it was probably when I was about 12. Kind of peaked a little bit. I always ran track, so I was a little bit faster than most of the girls, and it's kind of one of those times where I was kind of like, well, maybe I should not do AYSO anymore, and maybe I should play club, like challenge myself. So it's kind of when I started challenging myself as far as club, breaking away from the AYSO with my friends and meeting new friends, and so far it's been so good.
So you played basketball, you did track, and you were on a club soccer team. How did you balance all of that?
It was definitely really hard, but I think it kept me going. I think now the schedule here is nothing compared to how it was. I had no social life in high school. I went from one practice to the next, and then back to do homework and off to the next practice. So, I mean, it was pretty cool. I think now we have the workouts, we have class, we have other workouts and tutoring and all sorts of things. So I think I prepared myself.
Well, you've got a lot of soccer left to play at UCLA as a junior, but as you look ahead, do you have plans on staying involved in sports?
Definitely have plans to stay involved with sports, either playing or coaching. So as long as my body can take it, go as far as I can. If the opportunity's there, I'm going to take it. But if not, I'd love to be a coach and just teach the young kids, boys or girls, as far as the sport that I love.
What advice would you give to those young viewers who are watching you right now about what they can do to increase their chances of progressing and playing at the college level?
I would definitely say that as much as you don't want to, and you're like, I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV, that playing find a wall and a ball and just kick that ball. Figure out your touches, what foot you're most dominant with, and just fall in love with that ball. Because when you do that, then you can go anywhere.
And it's gotten her to UCLA, where she's got a couple more years. Hope you'll come out and see the Bruins. They start up again in August. That's going to do it for a great edition of UCLA Bruin Talk. For Naomi Manea, I'm Dave Marcus. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.